In the bowels of the Netherton Towers, there existed a realm detached from the rest of the bustling world above. This was the basement, a place lost in time, its air stale and thick with dust, a contrast to the gleaming modernity of the floors above. It was here that Moira, the tower's diligent cleaning lady, stumbled upon a box seemingly as old as the building itself. Moira had a curious streak, a trait often deemed unnecessary for someone in her line of work. It was a small, rusted iron box, half hidden behind piles of discarded print reels and yellowing blueprints. Moira found herself drawn to the artifact, a relic of another era. Against her better judgment, she pried open the lock with an old screwdriver. What she discovered inside was unexpected: a diary, its leather cover worn out with age, the pages yellowed and brittle under her tentative touch. The looping, rushed handwriting bore testament to a mind both brilliant and chaotic. It was Percival Lawson's diary, the infamous architect of the Netherton Towers, whose eccentricity had been the subject of hushed whispers among the staff. Her curiosity piqued, Moira dared to delve deeper into the cryptic entries, the meticulously detailed sketches, and the almost frantic accounts of the author. As she traced her fingers over the faded lines and cryptic symbols, a chill ran down her spine. A dark foreboding clung to each page as if the ink were imbued with shadows. There was a sense of urgency in the pages, a feeling of anticipation and dread that only deepened the further she delved into Lawson's world. At first, she rationalized it as an architectural notebook, the ramblings of a man obsessed with his craft. But as the nights stretched on, with her hunched over the ancient book under the dim glow of her table lamp, she began to understand the gravity of what she had stumbled upon. The diary was not a mere architectural memento. It was a cryptic manual of a grand design that Lawson had woven into the very blueprint of the Netherton Towers. She recognized the sigils from the detailed sketches, finding them subtly embedded in the decor, hidden in plain sight in the very structure of the building. The realization was as thrilling as it was terrifying, the implications looming large. As she devoured the diary night after night, she felt the shadow of the towers lengthen over her. The whispers of the past breathed life into the stone and steel structure, painting a chilling picture of its haunted legacy. Yet, it was just the beginning. Her discovery set the stage for a journey that would plunge her into the heart of darkness, deep into the secret haunting the 13th floor of the Netherton Towers. The more Moira delved into the diary, the more she found herself entangled in the life of Percival Lawson. It was a life lived in shadows, a life cloaked in mystery and tinged with the arcane. The diary became a window into this eccentric architect's mind, revealing a fascination with the netherworld that far surpassed the boundaries of reason and sanity. His entries were punctuated with vivid illustrations of cryptic sigils and eerie symbols, each accompanied by annotations that reflected an intense obsession with the occult. The symbols were eerily familiar. They were discreetly etched into the walls, integrated into the tiles, subtly woven into the tapestries of the Netherton Towers. Moira became cognizant of a haunting symmetry between the architect's macabre musings and her experiences in the building. She started noticing strange phenomena, like a sudden drop in temperature that would cause her breath to frost in the air, or the occasional flickering of lights that could not be explained by faulty wiring. She would often hear hushed whispers hurling out from the walls, a quiet hum that seemed to resonate with the very foundation of the Netherton Towers. These unsettling events painted the familiar surroundings in a new, sinister light. The grand lobby with its ornate chandeliers seemed to hide menacing shadows. The long corridors echoed with sounds that did not belong, and the grandeur of the penthouse seemed tainted with an unspeakable dread. Sleep offered no respite from the creeping terror. Moira's dreams were invaded by visions of darkness, nightmarish scenes that seemed to leap out of Lawson's diary and into her subconscious. She found herself standing at the precipice of fiery pits, surrounded by grotesque demonic figures, their hollow eyes burning into her very soul. The air around her was filled with the echoes of tormented screams, each one searing into her mind like a white-hot brand. With each passing day, the line between Percival Lawson's haunted past and her present started blurring. The Netherton Towers were not just an architectural marvel, but a cryptic puzzle box created by a man whose sanity was consumed by his obsession with the supernatural. And so, Moira, armed with the diary that now seemed more like a cursed artifact, found herself at the heart of a chilling revelation. She was living in the shadow of Lawson's past, his obsession bleeding into her life, tainting her reality with an eerie sense of dread that was impossible to shake. She was no longer a mere spectator. She had become a part of the haunted legacy of the Netherton Towers. As Moira journeyed deeper into Percival Lawson's cryptic legacy, she stumbled upon a revelation that sent a chill coursing through her veins. Amidst the ravings and ramblings of an increasingly unhinged mind, Lawson had chronicled a horrifying reality. The 13th floor of Netherton Towers was not just a construction of brick and mortar, but a conduit to another realm. This chilling discovery was made in the early hours of a rain-drenched morning, the patter of droplets against the window creating a somber symphony. Moira found herself tracing the passage with trembling fingers. Lawson's frantic scribbles had transformed into a disturbing narrative. He wrote of forbidden rituals and dark incantations, of opening a door that was never meant to be opened, of breaching a threshold that led to the netherworld. This wasn't the fruit of an overly imaginative architect who fancied himself a scribe. No. The dread that seeped from the pages was too real, the terror etched in Lawson's words too palpable. The diary depicted the 13th floor as a nexus of unseen energies, a focal point where the threads of our realm and the netherworld crossed. Moira felt a knot tighten in her stomach as she read the descriptions of the floor. Rooms that twisted onto themselves, corridors that led nowhere, and an eerie red glow that seemed to bleed from the very walls. The 13th floor was not an architectural quirk, but an unholy altar. Lawson, in his obsession, had designed it as a portal, a gate that held back the seething chaos of the netherworld. The unsettling reality bore down on Moira with a weight that left her breathless. She found herself staring at the rain-speckled window, a sense of deep unease washing over her. The architect's madness had inadvertently turned the Netherton Towers into a ticking time bomb, its 13th floor a dormant monster waiting to be roused. In her hands, she held not just a diary, but a chronicle of a looming disaster. Lawson's folly had created a dangerous anomaly that rested above their heads. But within the scattered thoughts of a deranged man, there was a hint of a solution, a way to undo the impending doom, a ritual that could close the portal, a sliver of hope in the encroaching darkness. And so, Moira found herself teetering on the edge of an unfathomable abyss, holding a map that could either save or doom them all. The fate of the Netherton Towers, its unsuspecting inhabitants, and perhaps the world rested on her shoulders. The 13th floor was not just a curiosity, but a question of survival, a portal ajar waiting for the appointed hour. It seemed as though with every turn of a page in Lawson's diary, the boundary between the seen and unseen, the mundane and the mystical, thinned around Moira. Each subsequent revelation was more frightening than the last, culminating in the disturbing reality that something unworldly, ominous, resided within Netherton Towers. The diary detailed in a frenzied narrative the presence of entities that Lawson referred to as the unseen. His descriptions painted a chilling picture of formless shadows, sentient, purposeful, and teeming with an insidious intent. They were creatures of the netherworld, trapped within the confines of the 13th floor, bound by the arcane sigils and rites that Lawson had woven into the architecture. A shiver raced down Moira's spine as she read Lawson's account of the first time he had interacted with these entities. His words were tinged with a heady mix of terror and fascination, of a man drawn to the brink of insanity by a force far beyond human comprehension. They whispered secrets into his mind, secrets of time and space, life and death, truths so profound that they unhinged him, set him on the path of madness and obsession. She could almost feel the spectral presence of these beings, a cold prickle on her skin, a breath on the back of her neck. A creeping paranoia began to infiltrate her mind, transforming every shadow into a lurking figure, every sound into a menacing whisper. The once familiar corridors of Netherton Towers took on a sinister quality, pulsating with a malevolent energy that seemed to watch her every move. Each night, Moira found herself plagued by dreams that were far too real to be mere figments of her imagination. She saw towering figures, shapeless and terrifying, their very presence seeming to warp the reality around them. The walls of the 13th floor would breathe, undulating like a living creature, and the shadows would dance to the whispers of the unseen. Daylight did little to banish the terror. Moira would catch glimpses of flickering movements at the corner of her eyes, only to turn and find nothing. The whispers she heard were no longer confined to the hushed wind, but resonated from the very heart of the towers. A gnawing fear took root in her heart, an unspoken dread that something was awakening within the 13th floor, stirred by her delving into Lawson's diary. It was a race against time. She had to understand the rituals, decipher the symbols, and unravel the mystery before the unseen broke free of their prison. As she pored over the diary, her eyes burning from the strain, her mind teetered on the brink of fear and determination. She was not just a cleaning lady anymore. She had become the unwitting guardian of a terrible secret, a beacon of hope against the rising darkness. The unseen forces of the Netherton Towers were stirring, and only she held the key to quell them. The burden of Lawson's secrets was a solitary and heavy one for Moira. She felt as though she were being swallowed by the shadow of the looming crisis, the terror of the unseen, the dread of the 13th floor. It was then that Serafina stepped into her life, a figure from the realm of the unknown who would prove to be a beacon in Moira's darkest hour. Serafina wasn't an ordinary inhabitant of the Netherton Towers. She was an enigma wrapped in a shroud of mystique. An old woman, ageless and timeless, who resided on the 12th floor, living on the boundary of the mortal realm and the gateway to the netherworld. Their paths crossed on a bleak, stormy evening when Moira, wrestling with the cryptic symbols in Lawson's diary, was interrupted by a soft knock on her door. There stood Serafina, her striking eyes sparkling with an arcane knowledge, her voice soft yet commanding. She claimed to be a medium, a conduit to the spiritual world, and had sensed a disturbance in the towers. Reluctantly, Moira confided in her, and Serafina took it upon herself to guide the unassuming cleaning lady through the tangled maze of Lawson's obsession. She introduced Moira to ancient lore, taught her to comprehend the esoteric symbols, to read between Lawson's lines, and helped her unravel the ritual that could seal the portal on the 13th floor. Serafina became a comforting presence in Moira's turbulent world. Her knowledge of the unseen realm was vast, her guidance unerring. Even in the face of the impending catastrophe, Serafina remained unflappable, her faith unwavering. She stood like a lighthouse amidst a storm, guiding Moira's shaky steps towards their daunting task. Yet Moira couldn't help but sense a hidden sorrow in Serafina, a darkness that clouded her eyes when she spoke of the netherworld. There was a story there, a painful past that Serafina had locked away. It was a ghost that haunted her, just as the unseen haunted the 13th floor. Despite her melancholy, Serafina continued to guide Moira, her convictions stronger than her pain. Together they toiled day and night, their resolve firming with every passing hour. As the deadline drew closer, the sense of urgency heightened, the tension palpable. In Serafina, Moira found not just a mentor but also an ally, someone who understood the gravity of the situation, who shared her fear and her determination. Together they stood at the threshold of the netherworld, two mortal women against the unseen forces of the 13th floor, guided by the cryptic words of a man lost to his obsession. Would they succeed in averting the looming catastrophe? Or would they become victims of the terrible secret of Netherton Towers? Only time could tell. For now, they had each other, and they had their determination fueled by the guidance of Serafina. The ticking clock seemed louder as midnight approached. The diary, now seeming more like an ancient grimoire, lay open on the floor between Moira and Serafina, its pages revealing the haunting symbols and cryptic rites necessary for the impending ritual. The 13th floor of the Netherton Towers was eerily silent, a muffled stillness hanging heavy in the air as if the very walls were holding their breath. The ritual, as detailed in Lawson's diary, was a complex weave of incantations, symbols, and intent. It was a dance on the edge of reality, a bridge between the mortal world and the netherworld. And at its heart were Moira and Serafina, two individuals standing as the last line of defense against the encroaching chaos. In the glow of a single candle, Serafina began the ritual. Her voice echoed through the cavernous space, weaving a rhythm that resonated with the ominous symbols etched into the walls. As the words flowed, an icy wind seemed to whip around them, an ethereal force acknowledging their attempt to restore the balance. Moira watched as Serafina continued, her voice unwavering, her eyes ablaze with determination. The storm outside roared, lightning illuminating the swirling darkness beyond the windows, their reflection in the glass making it appear as if they were suspended amidst the tempest. Every word of the incantation, every movement of their hands tracing the sigils in the air, every drawn breath, added to the power of the ritual. It was an ancient dance with the unknown, a battle of wills against unseen waiting for the ritual to reach its climax. As the final words left Seraphina's lips, a deafening silence descended upon them. The air was still, the darkness outside pressing against the windows like a physical entity. It felt as if they had stepped into the eye of the storm, a fleeting moment of calm before the onslaught. Did they succeed? Had they managed to restore the balance and seal the 13th floor's ominous gateway? The answers were buried within the thick silence that wrapped around them, a silence that bore the weight of their actions, their hopes, and their fears. In the heart of the Netherton Towers, amidst the spectral shadows and echoes of the past, two women had braved the unknown, had stood their ground against the lurking terror of the 13th floor. The midnight ritual was complete, the fate of the towers hanging in the balance as the unseen forces contemplated their next move. With the completion of the ritual, Moira and Seraphina had hoped for a sign of success, a token of victory over the unseen forces. But instead, the 13th floor remained eerily quiet, its oppressive stillness belying the storm they had stirred. In the heart of this silence emerged an entity unlike any other they had encountered, the gatekeeper. As his presence manifested, the temperature in the room dropped precipitously, an otherworldly chill radiating from the spectral figure. He was a colossal silhouette, the air around him rippling with an unfathomable energy. The gatekeeper, as Lawson's diary had hinted, was the custodian of the boundary between the mortal world and the netherworld. He was an entity born from the very essence of the 13th floor, a sentinel standing watch over the gateway. His voice echoed through the room, a sonorous boom that made the very walls tremble. The gatekeeper questioned their audacity, their gall to attempt to seal the portal, to meddle with a power far beyond their understanding. However, in the face of this formidable entity, Seraphina remained undeterred. She returned his booming words with a calm, steely resolve. She defended their actions, argued for the necessity of maintaining the balance between realms, the importance of preventing the unseen forces from wreaking havoc upon the world. The gatekeeper was not easily swayed. His laughter echoed ominously through the towers, an assertion of his dominance over the domain. But he did not ignore Seraphina's plea. There was a strange curiosity in his spectral gaze, an interest in these mortals who had dared to tread the path few had ventured. Moira watched in silent awe, her heart pounding as the negotiations unfolded. The gatekeeper was terrifying, a manifestation of an ancient power that seemed capable of consuming them with a mere thought. But the fate of Netherton Towers, the lives of its inhabitants, and perhaps the world, hung on this precarious dialogue. The confrontation with the gatekeeper was a test of their courage and determination. They were not mere participants in this cosmic play, they were the protagonists facing a chilling climax. The spectral sentinel of the 13th floor stood before them, a final hurdle on their quest to avert catastrophe. Their encounter with the gatekeeper was a significant moment in their struggle against the unseen forces of the 13th floor. The outcome of this meeting would determine not just their fate, but also the fate of Netherton Towers, and by extension, the world as they knew it. Their resolve, their arguments, and the strength of their belief were all that stood between safety and annihilation. The confrontation with the gatekeeper pushed Moira and Seraphina further into the labyrinth of Netherton Towers' hidden history. To understand this entity, to decipher his stance, they needed to dive deeper into the echoes of the past that resonated within the stone walls of the 13th floor. The gatekeeper had mentioned Lawson, the architect, and his pact. It became clear that Lawson's deal with the unseen forces was far more intricate than they had initially believed. The revelation sent them back to the diary, digging through the worn pages and cryptic entries for hidden clues about the nature of the pact. As they delved deeper into Lawson's writings, they uncovered a complex tale of ambition, fear, and sacrifice. Lawson had not just used arcane knowledge to design the 13th floor. He had bartered a part of himself to the unseen forces in return for their secrets. The towers were not just his architectural masterpiece. They were a testament to his obsession, his pact, and his tragic end. The echoes of Lawson's past reverberated around them, casting long, somber shadows over their quest. His aspirations had spiraled into a nightmare, his life becoming a cautionary tale about the cost of meddling with the unknown. But his past also held the keys to their present predicament, clues about the gatekeeper and the pact that was now their burden to fulfill. In Lawson's shadow, Moira and Serafina navigated the fragile boundary between the past and the present. They traced his descent into madness, his desperate attempts to keep the unseen forces at bay, and his final, heartbreaking realization of the disaster he had unleashed. Despite the despair that clung to Lawson's past, they drew strength from his struggle. His mistakes became their lessons, his failure their motivation. They were determined not to let history repeat itself, to prevent the 13th floor from becoming their downfall. As the echoes of the past resounded around them, a new resolve took root within Moira and Serafina. They had understood the magnitude of Lawson's pact, and they were ready to face the gatekeeper again, armed with newfound knowledge and a fierce determination. The past and the present intertwined, painting a grim yet empowering picture of their journey. They stood on the brink of a decisive confrontation, echoes of the past guiding their path as they prepared to face the spectral sentinel of the 13th floor once more. The story of Netherton Towers was far from over. The echoes of its past were yet to fade away. The journey through the haunted past of Netherton Towers, through Lawson's tragic obsession, had been arduous, a winding path through the shadows of despair. But as they emerged from the echoes of the past, there was a flicker of hope in the air, a whisper that their struggle was not in vain. Armed with their newfound understanding of Lawson's pact and the gatekeeper's role, Moira and Serafina found themselves imbued with a renewed sense of purpose. This was not just a battle against the unseen forces, it was a battle for redemption, a chance to correct the mistakes of the past. The dawn of hope marked a turning point in their journey, the first light breaking through the ominous clouds that had engulfed Netherton Towers. With each passing hour, they felt a growing conviction that they could indeed turn the tide. However, this wasn't a naive hope, a baseless optimism born out of desperation. It was a hope nurtured by their hard-earned knowledge, their unyielding determination, and their shared resolve. It was a beacon that shone amidst the uncertainty, guiding their way through the spectral shadows of the 13th floor. The 13th floor was no longer a domain of fear. Instead, it had become a battleground, a realm where they stood their ground, where they pushed back against the encroaching darkness. The gatekeeper was no longer a terrifying adversary, but a challenge they were ready to face. The dawn also brought a deeper connection between Moira and Serafina. Their shared struggle had fostered a bond beyond the mortal realm, a unity of spirit that made them a formidable force against the unseen. Together, they embodied the human spirit's resilience, a testament to the strength found in unity, in shared hope. As the first rays of dawn penetrated the gloom of the towers, they prepared for their second confrontation with the gatekeeper. This time, they were not just two individuals standing against an ancient entity. They were carriers of hope, champions of redemption, bearers of a legacy they were determined to fulfill. The dawn of hope was not just a new day, it was a new chapter in their struggle, a testament to their courage and resilience. The darkness of the past had receded, giving way to a hopeful future. As they stood on the brink of a decisive confrontation, they held on to that hope, letting it guide them into the heart of the storm. Hey everyone, welcome to our channel. We're so excited to have you here and share our content with you. If you're new here, make sure to click that subscribe button down below and hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching, and we can't wait to see you in the next video.